Welcome to the Basin Bulletin. I'm your host, Devin Caldwell. Happy 2011, everybody. Both Uinta and Duchesne school districts are back in session, and USU starts classes back up next week. And the forecast shows we're going to be warming up again, or at least above zero for a few days. Let's look at this week's headlines. Facebook poll, Uinta Basin weather, Huntsman presidential run, Mike Lee, Uinta relay for life. Our opening story comes from my latest Facebook poll. I asked if you'd rather order from a laminated menu or from an iPad. Now here's why. Time named the iPad as the #1 gadget of the year. Just like the iPod wasn't the first MP3 player, the tablet computer is not a new idea. Tablet computers have been around for years, but Apple has figured out how to make it a hit, selling 3 million in the first month of sales. That type of mass adoption hasn't happened since the sale of DVD players. As reported by the Associated Press, high-class restaurants are starting to use the iPad as a way to increase their sales, and it's working. Since they've started using the iPad, a Chicago steakhouse has increased sales by 20%. I've contacted a few restaurants around the Basin, but none were willing to comment on this story at this time. So, sounds like we won't be seeing any iPad at any restaurant nearest you anytime soon. Yet, think of the possibilities. You could pay your bill right there at the table without worrying about what happens to your credit card as it goes into another room where the cash register is found. The restaurant could see if you like the meal by presenting you a survey. You could rate the dish on the spot. You could see the most popular item on the menu by seeing what other customers have ordered. Again, the possibilities are endless. Maybe I could open up a restaurant in town. All right, maybe not, but still, the Facebook shows that you'd be pleasing at least a few Basin residents by utilizing an iPad. There's some good news with that cold weather. It's wonderful that we didn't have record lows over the weekend. We'd have to go back to way before I was born to find the record of low of minus 38 degrees in 1952. So, why is it that the Basin gets so stinking cold? State Senator Kevin Van Tassel told the Deseret News what many of us have known for years, that when we get snow early, we have long, miserable cold weather, and we're going to have poor air. And it's this phenomenon of the poor air that has state regulators asking more questions in the Uinta Basin. But first, before we talk about that, why can't forecasters come close to predicting the weather for the Uinta Basin? Well, the main problem is the Uinta Mountain Range. It is the only major mountain range in the U.S. that has an east-west orientation. And forecasters don't recognize that if a storm comes from the west, we don't see much precipitation. We usually see precipitation only if the storm is coming from the south or if it has a southerly spin on it. Now that we have that out of the way, the other problem is that we live in a basin, surrounded by mountains, and inversion is easily created and thus capping or trapping in the cold air until a large weather disruption occurs. I have friends who will go fishing on the green during an inversion, and it can easily be 20 degrees warmer up on the mountain versus down in the valley. And as they're recording this broadcast, it's 4 degrees in Vernal, and it's 26 degrees up at Flaming Gorge. Almost 1,000 feet higher in elevation, yet it's warmer. Nice. I think it's time to go fishing. Now, about that poor air quality thing in the Basin. The state is currently working with a few different agencies to track the air quality of the Basin. The Deseret News reports that the BLM has already spent $250,000 in the region gathering air quality data. The BLM will better collaborate with the USU Bingham Research Center and the state in gathering and sharing as much data as possible to find if the poor air is due to local oil and gas operations or if it's drifting in from outside the Basin. Now on to a few political notes. John Huntsman Jr. is currently the ambassador to China after being asked by President Obama to take the position. A Newsweek article leaves the impression that Huntsman may have plans to run for presidential office in the future. He was quoted as saying, "You know, I'm really focused on what we're doing in our current position, but we won't do this forever, and I think we may have one final run left in our bones." He was then asked if he would run for president, possibly running in 2012 against the person that appointed him to his current position in China, and Huntsman declined to comment. That would make two very recognizable people to Utahns running for president in 2012, he and former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. We'll have to see how things go in the next 2 years and what direction the House and Senate take our country to see if Huntsman really will make a run in 2012 or if he's going to wait until 2016. And speaking of the Senate, Mike Lee, senator from Utah, has already been vocal in how he'll be representing Utah. He told Fox News Sunday that it seems once and for all to stop perpetually spending money we don't have in sending the bill to unborn generations of Americans. As our last story, we want to let you know about the Uinta Basin Relay for Life kickoff. This year's annual relay will be held June 3rd and 4th of this year, 2011. But to start the year off right, there will be a kickoff event held January 12th at the Western Park at 6:30 p.m. You can sign up your team now for only $25 up until the 12th. If you wait until after, you'll have to pay the regular price for a team. You can visit www.uintarelayforlife.org or you can sign up at the kickoff. For more information, please call Chrissy at 790-1191. This year's kickoff is branded as Get Your Game On. So make sure to wear your favorite jersey and enter the drawing to win Happy Bucks for your team. Again, if you have further questions, call Chrissy at 790-1191. Well, that's it for another broadcast. Thanks for joining us and have a fantastic week. We hope to see you again right here next week on the Basin Bulletin.